This week, we speak with Giovanni Patalano, a high school mathematics teacher from California. Giovanni is striving to continue pushing mathematics teaching practice in his school and across the district, but feels like they've hit a bit of a rut in that road.
How can Giovanni assist his own school team of mathematics teachers continuing making progress while also trying to help an overworked and understaffed district leadership team to continue making productive moves in the right direction? Hey there, this is another Math Mentoring Moment episode where we speak with a member of the Math Moment Maker community, a person just like you, where together we're brainstorming strategies and next steps for teachers to overcome the pebbles they have in their shoe by growing all 6 parts of their mathematics program.
All right, my friends, welcome to the Making Math Moments That Matter podcast. I'm Kyle Pierce.
And I'm John Orr. We are from MakeMathMoments.com.
This is the only podcast that coaches you through a 6-step plan to grow your mathematics program, whether at the classroom level or at the district level.
And we do that by helping you cultivate and foster your mathematics program like a strong, healthy, and balanced tree.
If you master the 6 parts of an effective mathematics program, the impact of your math program will grow and reach far and wide.
Each week here on the podcast, you will get the insight you need to stop feeling overwhelmed, gain back the confidence. You can get back to enjoying the planning and facilitating of your mathematics program for the students or the educators you serve.
Today, we'll be specifically highlighting the limbs of the tree, which represent either your school or district professional learning structure or your own professional learning plan if you're in a classroom setting. So stick around as we work with Giovanni to help strengthen that part of his district-wide math program as it tries to funnel into his own school and his own classroom.
Yeah, stick around. You're going to hear our conversation about, with Giovanni on how he can make strides with many constraints surrounding him so that he can strengthen that program up. So here we go.
Okay, yeah. So there's just a lot of things, like we have a lot of moving parts. Our district doesn't really have a math specific leader. We just have an overall K-12 leader. So I feel like a lot of things kind of start falling through the cracks.
Right.
And it's hard for me. I'm trying to be the voice for the teachers and trying to help them get on track with our goals that we've kind of discussed. But I'm meeting like how administrators are approaching teachers when they're not doing it perfectly yet.
Now, when you say perfectly, like what specifically are there certain actions that they're saying like it should look exactly this way, or what does that look like or sound like?
Yeah, so I think we've been focusing mostly on student discourse in classrooms and trying to build that up. So we recently were strategies for that. To give us like a common vocab and procedures in class that students can get used to.
Sure.
But it doesn't always go well at the beginning, as I'm sure you guys know, just to and to feel comfortable even just using these talk. So I'm so sorry for all the noise.
No, that's all right.
Okay.
No, we can hear you perfectly. So it's I think your mic is smart enough to know the difference, which is kind of nice. So
Okay, good.
yeah. So you know, that's an interesting piece. Like you've said a few things. What I think I heard you say was you know, you're in a situation where it sounds like maybe it's a funding issue, maybe it's a focus issue for the district in terms of having a leader that is sort of focused on the mathematics. How many schools are in your district?
We have 2 high schools and like 20 elementary schools.
Okay.
And I want to say 10 junior highs or 8 junior highs. Yeah.
Okay, so there's some decent size there.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's definitely sounds like there are some goals going on around math discourse, which is great. But then it also sounds like on one hand, we want teachers to try new things. We want them to implement new things, but it sounds like, when they try something and maybe it doesn't work out as you might want it to work out over time, there's a little bit of whether it's backlash or judgment, or at least perceived judgment going on there. That's interesting. Tell me more. What else is kind of on your mind? And I'm wondering, if you can also dig into sort of your role. It sounds like you're a bit of you're rallying the troops a little bit here.
Yeah. So I'm our math team lead on my campus. So I we have curriculum council meetings, and I kind of talk with the people at the district. But I think the problem is like communication, clear goal setting. Like I think on your last podcast, you guys were talking about that, how there's so much to try to tackle that you have to just pick small goals. And I think we're having trouble with that. I've always had an issue with focusing my lessons and things like that. And I'm having that same issue right now with my team. Just because also there's kind of a lack of direction coming to me. So I guess just kind of strategies to kind of get people all on the same page and figure out what we feel like, how we should move forward with it in a way that's like measurable and attainable, as opposed to kind of hopping around from this idea to this idea to this idea before we perfected it.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah, we did talk about, in order for us to have a strong mathematics program, whether it's in the classroom, or whether it's, at a district, or whether it's in a small school team, we do have to create those specific goals. And usually what we talk about when we create those goals is we just kind of ask ourselves an easy question. I guess it's not really an easy question, but it's like a question that sounds easy. It's like, well, what do we want our classroom to look like in a couple of years? Like, what do we want the kids to say? And that usually can help frame what we want to work on. But that question has to be posed to each other, each of themselves. So yourself, each of your team members, and then it's like, let's come together with the answers that we've come up with. And is there any alignment? Is there any overlap on what we want to see here? And does that line up with what the district is telling us that we should be focusing on? If so, maybe we can kind of mold or blend what we're coming up with. And then usually, because we co-create those, everyone starts to go, hey, I can see where I might fit in on this pathway, and where you're going to fit in on this pathway, and maybe we can create a pathway together so that we can all get there. So I'm curious, like, what have you, I know that you're saying you've been kind of struggling with some of this in your school as well, but what would you have done so far to kind of like try to bring this about?
So we have done the 7 years question, actually. And the biggest thing that came out of that was that we wanted students to be more engaged, involved, and discussing with each other, more interactions between both of them. There's also more about kids kind of being able to kind of be self-starters. And then third piece was like more engaging questions and things like that. So like we also need support with curriculum, but that's something that's a little bit out of our control.
Right. Yeah. And it's interesting. Like, and I'm wondering too, and I think you're kind of heading there with what you had just said. My thought was going back to the math discourse piece, and how some people are having some struggles with that, and, how it obviously takes time to develop. I'm wondering, do you feel like there's some other pieces to the math puzzle that might also be hindering some of the success? And what I mean by that is, oftentimes we'll pick a goal, we'll pick something like math discourse, or we'll pick problem solving or, modeling or whatever that might be. But sometimes it's very hard for that thing to have much of an impact if it's sort of only happening on its own. And there might be some other missing pieces, but I think I just heard you sort of articulating that with some of the other goals you had.
Yeah, because I mean, then it also comes up when we are talking about student discourse and trying to plan stuff together. None of us are really fully aligned. So we still need to have conversations about what are we teaching in the class, because right now our district has chosen to focus on how we're teaching in a class.
Right.
And it almost feels backwards to some of the teachers because we're not all really aligned right now.
Got it. So that definitely, yeah, I'm definitely hearing that, and that makes sense as well. Oftentimes too, I'm going to guess here that, when math discourse sort of came in, there might be some stakeholders, some educators that might not be really sure, like why, like why that and not something else, right? I think everyone likes the idea, but learning about why and shifting our beliefs around why that might be helpful. Sometimes in the district, I've been in a position where, you're leading a district and in your head, it makes sense, but that's not clearly articulated to everyone in the team, then it's very difficult for us to arrive or at least travel down a similar path to try to arrive at a place together. So there's a lot of thoughts there. My wonder for you is this: you had mentioned about the focusing on what it looks like in the classroom and may not, and that you don't necessarily have enough time to kind of meet together and sort of align that teacher vision. Is there any sort of PD structure built in for you as either a smaller team or as a school-wide team, or maybe even beyond into more of like a district-wide team?
Yeah, we have a PLC time on Tuesday mornings. But one of those is given to all staff, and then the other one is given to specialty teams, so APs and other teams like that. So really, we're just kind of meeting twice a month, sometimes 3 times, and it's just an hour each time before school. So it doesn't really lend itself to us actually digging in and getting deep into things. That's why a lot of times when they do send us a task, it's just impossible to do in the time that we're given.
Right.
So sometimes I'm trying to think, how can I streamline this to make it attainable within the hour? That's another struggle that I've had. So it's kind of finding the right focus that we can actually try to tackle in the little time we are given together.
Do you have anyone at the district level that, you've maybe had this conversation? It sounds like, by the way, the way you're articulating it is very appropriate. It's very respectful. It's very, sometimes people get frustrated and that can come across, sort of negatively and becomes unproductive. But it sounds like the way you're describing it to us, it's in a very productive way. I'm curious, do you have anyone's ear where, through some of your concerns, but then maybe through some of your ideas, you might be able to help them help with the alignment without overstepping those bounds? Because of course, as you know, people get very, their backs can get up if, they feel like they're being attacked or, being judged themselves.
Yeah, I've actually feel like I've made some headway with my person at the district, reaching out to them and expressing like, I totally understand that the breadth of their job is wild and it's not lost on me. So I do try to give some suggestions like, our team thought of this, or our team thought of that. But another issue is just that time. Sometimes we've planned things where we pull teachers out to do observations or something like that, but then we don't have enough subs, so it gets canceled.
Right.
Been there, done that.
Yeah. So maybe there's other strategies to try to encourage teacher collaboration outside of that planned time, but I don't know how to.
Well, my thought, and John, I don't know if you're thinking along the same lines here, but, having a sort of someone there that you can, connect with, and it sounds like you're sharing, the fact that you obviously care and that you want to help, you don't want to, cause problems, ruffle feathers. I wonder if there's an opportunity for you to help introduce or bring them into a bit of the fold. And what I'm thinking in particular is recently we've actually crafted a district leader assessment tool, which you may or may not have, come across. There's also a classroom version, which might be helpful for you in your PLCs. But when it comes to the district leader, it could be one of those things where, maybe you do it and you go through, get kind of familiar with that, and then maybe share it as a, hey, I just did this thing. I found it really helpful. Or, if you do, if you don't find it helpful, you won't share it. But if you do, you could share that with them. And I wonder, you could even throw the olive branch out and say, maybe there's a day over the next couple of weeks where we can connect after school, or maybe they can come visit you, who knows? And we can sit down and go through some of these questions and see if there's any pieces there that might help us reach the goals that we've set as a district. So, my language there, I'm trying to be very respectful of the work that they've done so far, because I'm sure that, that's been a lot of work to get to where you are. And then through that process, you might be able to be almost like the connector to more ideas. And then I'm picturing on this PLC side, when you go back to your teachers, you could share the classroom version with them. And maybe that's something that, you say, hey, listen, we're going to use the next PLC. We're going to all do it. And then we're going to go through the questions together and kind of look like, what did you think? And most of it's a Likert scale. So 0 to 5. And, if you're scoring a 5 on one question and someone else is a 0, you'll be shocked at the conversations that develop from, being able to kind of go, wait, like, did you interpret the question differently? Or like, what does that look like in your classroom? And oftentimes what that allows you to do is you figure out where you're aligned as a team. That can be an area that you can continue some work, but then also you try to figure out that can help you with helping to get to that alignment that you had described earlier. So I'm going to pause there and sort of get your thoughts on that. I've kind of shared two big ideas, and, maybe they're both, way too lofty, or maybe there's some meat on the bone there that, that you want to sort of grapple with.
Yeah, I think the first thing is, well, now I'm like second guessing it. I was going to say, I was thinking the first thing would be to try to, as a district, look at it, because when I talk with this district leader, she talks about how our school is kind of already ahead of the other schools as far as where
shocking you're there, like it's like, it shouldn't be shocking that that's the case, because you care and you're putting all this thought and time. But continue. Sorry, I just want to make sure you know that.
Yeah, so we're already ahead of the other schools, so it's kind of nice because now I could be like, well, we're doing this and it's working, or we tried that and it didn't work, which is cool. But the district leader is talking about, yeah, you might be able to define, or like, she has questions that she brings up all the time. She's like, you guys might be able to answer this within your own classroom, within your own site, but the challenge is aligning that answer to the entire district.
Totally.
So she's real zoomed out.
Mhm.
And I'm trying to zoom it back in and focus on these smaller wins and how we can take what works here and bring that to another campus.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Was that?
No, that's great.
It sounds good. And I have some thoughts as well on that district level connection, as Kyle had mentioned, that assessment can be helpful to see where the groups could align. But I mean, like, because there's lacks of funding, because there's lack of like release time and teacher substitutions, like, it's almost like, I wonder if there's an opportunity here for you to be a connector amongst your school and the other schools. So it's almost like this district leader is taxed so much that it's not math specific, right? It's like so many things. It's almost like we need a person who's like, this is my focus. And I know that it can't always be like, hey, this is your full-time job now, which is what should be, right? There should be somebody who's focusing specifically on math. That would be ideal. but I wonder if there's like opportunity where, you know, not everyone's going to get a release time to do, but maybe there's some opportunity for you to get some release time. Like maybe there's pockets of release time for Giovanni to go and like visit a classroom and observe, and then meet with a teacher, and then it's like go back to your classroom and kind of like keep going with your, you know, what you would normally do, or visit the other site to kind of like work, observe, you know, talk with a teacher there, and you're all of a sudden a connector between the two schools or the many schools, if they're middle school as well, and then back up to the district leader. So that could also help create alignment. Now that would require like an investment on the district side to go, hey, we need to release a teacher to do that. But that could be a way to kind of relieve some of the tax, you know, district leader, but also try to connect the two, you know, or the many schools that are there to try to keep alignment on the goals.
Going back to, you know, your thought, you said, you know, you were in the moment feeling like maybe you were second guessing your initial gut instinct to sort of start at that district side. And I tend to be with you. I wanted to give you two ideas, you know, and I think you start with one where you feel more comfortable, I think is most helpful. But it sounds like to you, you're going, I have to like potentially work with one person, and there's probably a better chance. It sounds like you already have a good working relationship there where, you know, you could share this work with them. Again, being very cautious not to, you know, accidentally step on toes. Sometimes, you know, excitement can come off the wrong way, right? It can sort of suggest like, hey, look at all the stuff I did and you didn't, or, you know, whatever that might be. It sounds like you're not going to have a problem with that. But if you're able to bring them into the fold with this conversation, what I really like about where this could go for you is that through that discussion, we've arranged this whole assessment around what we call the 6 parts of a tree. And that math program at a district level or at the classroom level, they're slightly different, but they're all very connected. But at the district level, there's 6 parts there. And the beautiful part is this assessment allows you to see it all together and all interconnected, which sounds like that's where the district leaders' focus and attention is, which makes sense, right? They're going, it's like teachers in the classroom saying, I have all these kids all over the map and I'm trying to, you know, meet all their needs. And then high school, it looks a little different. What that would allow you to do is as a team, your whole tree, and then you can zoom in on a part of the tree that might be where your team is at. And then as you, as a team, as a duo, start to better understand how they all interconnect, you might be able to then help to guide, like John said, if you're a connector to some, hey, you know what? It sounds like where your team's focusing is this part of the tree. And the beautiful part is that all of these pieces are important. That as districts, we think that everyone needs to do the exact same thing at the exact same time because that sounds easy. But in reality, it's actually harder that way when someone's not right. Like they might need to be over here and you're over there, just like you're saying, like, I'm working hard in here. I don't want to take my foot off the gas on this spot. Whereas somebody else might want to be over there or needs to be maybe looking at the whole picture. So I'm wondering, when I flip that back to you, are there any thoughts as to like maybe you know, some next steps for you that that might be helpful for you here based on this, you know, at least you know, something to get you going and feeling like you're heading in the right direction?
I think I can take on a bigger role of communicating with the district leader, trying to help with creating more alignment, and talk with my team about what they feel is the most important, and kind of either try to agree on what we're going to focus on or a kind of variation there with like smaller groups of teachers to focus on different things. And yeah, bringing all the math leaders together to answer these questions, whether it be like a Zoom call or some lack of ability to get it release time. I think those would be my next action items or focuses.
Sounds like
I like it.
a good plan to move ahead with.
So I'm thinking here, Giovanni, before we let you go for today, and inform you as well that there are some districts that explicitly on this work. So what I might recommend is, you first explore, touch base with colleague of yours, see how things are going, and then maybe in your back pocket there could be an opportunity where we all hop on a call and we try to, it maybe helps you bring that alignment together. Sometimes bringing an outside voice in, try to engage in that work. Of course, you have to tread very lightly there. They have to be like fully, open and interested in doing that. You can obviously share that with them. We have a district improvement program. We work pretty deeply, I say pretty deeply, like extensively with districts trying to help address all of these ideas that you're sharing. So, hopefully you found this call helpful for your next step. Before we let you go, I'm wondering, is it okay? We record every call we do, but this one has turned in, might shape up to be a nice math mentoring moment episode for the podcast, if you're okay with it. And we're more than happy, if you want us to leave names out, or if you don't want your video on there, or whatever. But we feel like the conversation's a great one, because I think a lot of people are struggling with that same pebble that you and your district are right now.
Cool.
No, awesome stuff. Awesome stuff.
It's always a little less nerve-wracking when you, right? And
So excited for this call anyway, so that's awesome.
well, that is great, my friend. Listen, we can't thank you enough for that you have this. We'll call it. It's a formal leadership role. Like, it's important work. I'm kidding when I said I'm not shocked that your school is, making some progress, which is, a hats off to you and your team. Clearly there's some good things going on there, and we're hoping nothing but the best here as you move forward.
Yeah, I'm lucky I got a good team.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
We'll chat with you soon. Take care.
All right, bye.
Bye now. Well, Math Moment Makers, as you heard, we were honing in on the limbs of the tree, but keeping in mind the conversation started around math discourse. That would be like a pedagogical content knowledge piece, which would be up in the branches. Hopefully you have this visual in your mind of how the limbs, this PD structure, is there to hold on to those branches, to the pedagogical moves, to the leaves, which is your tools and your resources, so that you can develop and deliver an effective math program. Hey, let's not forget about the trunk, which is the leadership part of the tree. We're talking about leadership at the district level, or if you're in the classroom, we're talking about those pillars, those norms for your class to build classroom culture. And deep under the soil, we've got the roots, and the roots is all about what we're here to do, which is to ensure that all students are mathematically proficient. That means we're going to have to work on our content knowledge, and we're going to have to shift our mindsets and beliefs, which is the soil, sun, and water for our tree, so that it can grow to become strong, balanced, healthy, and so it will stretch far and wide.
Yeah, it is great to see like how interconnected all these pieces happen to be, and the work that Giovanni is going to be doing with his, his program and stretching into the classroom with the teachers he works with, but also stretching higher into the district, the district leadership team. That when we focus on the limbs, the professional development structures that he's going through, or at the district level, you have to then focus on another area of the tree. They go hand in hand at some point. So it is great to see Giovanni making strides, and we are excited to check back with him in a little bit to see how things are going.
Hey, my friends, if you've learned something here, you need to share it somewhere. Share it with a friend, a colleague, maybe your partner at home, or best yet, you can leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, or on a comment on the YouTube channel. However you choose to do it, we certainly appreciate all of the wonderful, wonderful comments. We love and get energized when we hear from you, the Math Moment Maker community. And guess what? Google and Bing and all of those search engines love it too, and they will share that message far and wide. So get on there, leave us that rating and review, and give us your biggest takeaway.
If you're also looking to strengthen your tree and aren't sure exactly what piece to focus on first, Giovanni here, should be thinking about how to focus it on his limbs, and we talked about that. But if you're wondering, like, what should I focus on first? Should I do the limbs, or should I do a different section? Then we've got an assessment for you. We have our district or classroom mathematics program assessment. That's just a 12-minute survey that kind of gives you a sense of what you could focus on, but then you get a report emailed to you directly to highlight that area of need that you should first focus on. Now, there'll be other areas in your report that you can also focus on, but you can get that report. Now, you can head to makemathmoments.com/report. That's the mathematics classroom version. Or you can head to, specifically, if you're a district leader, you can head to makemathmoments.com/grow. That is the district assessment that can help your district focus on what is important first as well.
Awesome stuff, my friends. Show notes, links to resources, and complete transcripts are available on the show notes page over at makemathmoments.com/episode 231. That is makemathmoments.com/episode 231.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Make Math Moments That Matter podcast, where we help you grow your mathematics program like a tree so your impact can reach far and wide.
Until next time, Math Moment Maker friends, I'm Kyle Pierce.
And I'm John Orr.
High fives for us.
And a high five for you.